Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Appelboom Bites podcast. Today it's a really special episode because this is the last episode, for at least for now, with our amazing co-host David Parker AKA Figboot. And somebody is really happy about that. At least I heard some background noise.
Yes, there's activity around the neighborhood, and so our dog doorbell is going
Oh,
off
that's
right
that's
now.
really important. You have a good guard dog that keeps everything safe.
Yes, she does.
Yeah. So welcome, David. How are you?
Good, thank you. And yourself?
Yes, thank you. I'm great. And of course, we have a really special guest on the show today. It's Jonathon Brooks from Carolina Pen Company. Welcome, Jonathan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yes, it's great to have you here. How are you, Jonathan?
Doing well, doing well. How about you guys?
Yeah, it's
Good.
great over here. It's great over here. It's a really honor to have you on the show. We sell a lot of pens that you are involved making them, so it's always good to talk to the people that are behind the designs and the materials. All right, so before we start the whole
Thank
show,
you.
we always do the pen check first. David, would you like to start with your last pen check?
The pen check.
Yeah, well, what I have is a pen of a pen that I actually reviewed and posted yesterday, which happens to be the material made by Mr. Brooks, and that would be from a company by the name of Enso, who's based out of Los Angeles, California.
Nice.
And this is the Enso Piuma, and this is made out of primary manipulation 4, which is a little bit more wispy as opposed to some of the starker, kind of more bold color changes between on some of the other primary manipulation models. I'm not quite sure of the exact difference between like 1 and 2 and 3, but I could really tell the difference between 4. But it's really nice. It's a smaller pen, but it performs very nicely, and I think that the PM4 material is outstanding and something that I really enjoy.
Can you a little bit describe the colors that you see for the people that are only listening to the show and not watching it?
It really has a combination of, well, boy, basically list any color in the rainbow between blues and reds and purples and oranges and yellows. It's just really a combination of all of those colors. And as I mentioned in my review that not just because he's here, I've said it elsewhere, that Jonathon has a real deft hand when it comes to the mixing of these resins, because there's a lot of people that make resin out there, and there's some that just feels like they put a bunch of colors in there and then just put it in a blender. And that's kind of the look that it comes up with. But I'm pretty good about being able to see and notice Jonathon's material, because there's just something a little bit different about it. And you could just tell that there's a little bit more intention behind it and a little bit more skill, as opposed to someone just slapping something together and mixing it all up. And so that's something I enjoy about Jonathon's resin. Like I said that in my review, not just because he's right here right now, but that's one thing I enjoy about his material, is that you could really, after a while, distinguish his materials from some of the others that are out there on the market.
For this
Thank you
amazing
for that,
pen
David.
check
I appreciate it.
and your honesty about the materials. We will ask the secret of Jonathan's materials later on in the show, so he can reveal that. Jonathan, what's your pen check for today?
Yes.
What pen do you carry with you?
So, seeing as how this is David's last time on the podcast, for the future, or for the time being, I should say,
Yeah, for the time.
I went ahead and chose the Leonardo Carolina Midnight, which was the second release that David did with in collaboration between myself and Leonardo. So it's a material that I made, and David was nice enough to let me get one of the pens. It's one of probably my favorite of the Leonardos in terms of colors. Like David said, it's one of those, we had a lot of forethought into the colors that went into this. David and I worked hand in hand on getting just the right colors for this. And while I'm known for a lot of bright colors, this is actually one that's much more subdued. Yet when it's in your hand, it pops just as much as all the bright colors do.
Yeah.
So just to go a little bit into behind the scenes of when we're creating this is I kind of had some ideas of what I was looking for Jonathon to create, and he created 4 or 5 different varieties, maybe 4 different varieties that were very close to what I was looking
4.
for. And then he there was 4, and so there was 3 that were kind of close to what I was looking for, and then there was basically him saying, "How about this one? I think this one looks neat." And of course, the one that he came up with on his own that was kind of similar to the others, but of course his was the best of the bunch. And so basically it was taking my idea and then kind of running with it to come up with something better than only he could come up with. So better than I would have envisioned. And but it was just to see the creative process is interesting, and how kind of you start with one idea and then it kind of leaps to other things. And it was that leap that he had that created that material. And I hope to see that material in some other pens down the line.
Same here, because it's one of my favorites. Because, like I said, I like the darker, subdued colors, and this one really, really, really stands out as probably my best one to date.
And I think,
So,
David,
you'll definitely see more of it.
It was also sold out in a few hours or something, right?
Yeah, that one sold out in a few hours, maybe like 3 or 4 hours or something like that. And so it was nice to see. And then also it's kind of fun to have a project like that and then send it out. And then once people receive their pens, have the community be excited about receiving their pen. It's one thing to go on the Pen Addict Slack and other places and Reddit and see people going, "Hey, new pen day," and it's whatever. But then it's kind of an extra thing when it's like new pen day and it's your pen that came out with, and when you see them excited about that, then you want to have happy customers, and it's fun to have happy customers like that.
But you did all the shipping, right, David? So you had like this whole post office in your house.
Yes, from the table behind me when nothing else was on it.
Yeah.
So yes, all of in that particular run we did 300. Yeah, it was like 300. And so yes, I had all the pens sent to me, and all 300 I personally packed up, personally put in thank you notes. I wanted to make sure everything was right. If I only had 300 customers, I wanted to try to what can I do to make sure that everyone is going to be as happy as possible, and that the quality is there. And I'm literally checking every pen before it goes out, just to make sure that the QA is there to minimize the number of issues we have.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
because you're always going to, especially with quantities of that, you're going to have issues, and you just want to try to minimize those.
It's normal if you have issues. I mentioned it in the podcast a few weeks ago that we had with Fountain Pen Day and Black Friday so many orders. You always try to avoid issues, but you will have them. And the only thing that you can do is try to solve them as good as possible, and that's what we always try to do. And make everybody happy. That's the most important thing. All right, let's go to my pen check before we go further with the podcast. I have this, of course, also a Jonathon Brooks material. Fountain pen here. It's a collaboration between Leonardo and the Dutch Pen Show, because this was a Dutch Pen Show edition of 2022. What was the name of the material again, Jonathon?
I believe that one is Peacock Koi.
Yes. And so we called it Summer Sky because, the pen show was in the summer. And it's a beautiful blue with white swirls. And there are sparkles in it. And I see some purplish inside. It's amazing fountain pen. And Leonardo did a great job. They personalized the nib on it with the logo of the Dutch Pen Show and the feet, which is pretty cool. It has a blue feet, so that's like amazing.
It's the blue ebonite, correct?
Yes, it's ebonite.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that both you, Jonathan, and Salva from Leonardo did a great job on this pen, and we're happy, really happy with the
Thank you.
collaboration between the Dutch Pen Show, Jonathon Brooks, and Leonardo. For creating such beautiful pens. Yeah, I'm really happy with
Thank
it.
you. I appreciate it. I love
And I
working with
can,
Salva. He really does magic making all these pens.
Yeah, I agree. I've worked with Salva before, and that he's really nice to work with, and he does a good job as a business partner
Mhm.
for the projects that we've done.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely.
So Jonathan, can you explain me a little bit about how those collaborations are created? So David was a really difficult customer because he needed like a lot of examples before he could pick his choice. But how does it normally go?
Normal. Sometimes it goes really quickly where I'm looking for ABC color. You do your thing, and I'll love it.
Hmm.
And then sometimes can you make me a couple samples? And I need to turn them down and polish them to kind of show what a finished pen would look like. Ship them to the client. They'll take a look, and then we'll have some back and forth, and maybe tweak the recipe.
Hmm.
And then I have to remake new samples. So sometimes it can be a little laborious. David wasn't as bad as one might think. At least I had to make all the colors all at once, and it was like, do you want A, B, C, or D?
Yeah. Okay.
And it was pretty simple from there. But I've had some where I've had to go back and forth numerous times. And with companies like Leonardo, it's mostly a stock material that I've already made before.
Hmm.
So it's just a matter of getting out the proper recipe card and just making it versus having to design something with somebody.
Hmm.
And most of the time, I just get an email asking, you know, do I have quantity requirements and pricing and all the technical, businessy questions. And once we get past that, it's typically very quick as far as I'm looking for these colors, whether it's one I already make or one I'm going to make custom.
Hmm.
And then between that and shipping it to the client, it's usually fairly quick. It takes longer for them to manufacture, market, and release
Hmm.
versus me making the material and shipping it to them. The Enso pen that David showed earlier is a good example. That actually happened much earlier in the year where I actually forgot that they were doing that project. And it wasn't until I saw the Instagram post that I got tagged in. I was like, oh, yeah.
How
So
does it typically go? Do the brands announce it to you like, "Hey, Jonathan, yeah, I know we got some rods from you half a year ago, but next week we have an amazing launch."
I wish they would. That way I can help promote
Hmm.
more. But honestly, no, I don't find out until it's usually in the hands of the reviewers, like David or say Stephen Brown or somebody like that. It's usually in their hands, and the preliminary photos are already online when I find out that the pins have been made.
Hmm.
Rarely do I get a launch date. With Visconti, there's a little bit more of that information that comes in because of the way they're scheduling things with me. But
Hmm.
otherwise, it's mostly uh, make it for me as fast as you can, and then I find out later on when it launches.
What is now your main business? Because originally you're a pen maker, you're in the business since 2009, but because the materials that you make are so popular, do you also have time to create your own pens still, or is it mainly making rods for everybody and yeah, let everybody enjoy your materials?
It's a fairly even split. Some days or some weeks, the materials can kind of take over, mainly because the quantities of some orders are enormous.
Hmm.
and there's just not enough hours in the day to do both jobs.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, I spend half the day making materials and the other half the day making pens.
Mm-hmm.
So I still make pens on a daily basis. It's never gone away. But when I started back in 2009, it was only pens. And then when I learned the casting and the resin mixing and everything like that, that side of things kind of snowballed into what they are today. So I do a good 50-50 mix between the two. Now, I will say that I make way more materials than I do pens,
Mm-hmm.
but I still do pens very, frequently because I'm still doing 6 to 7 pen shows a year.
Yeah. So you have to create some pens.
Yes,
If
exactly.
if you ever had to choose one, do you think you could, or
That's a really tough
does
question.
each kind
That's
of
a really tough
scratch
question, David.
scratch a creative itch for you? So,
Oh man, that is a good question.
I'm not asking you to choose, but if you had to choose, could you? Do you think you could?
I think I could, and I'll even tell you the answer. I would probably choose the materials over the pens because at least with the materials side, I can still get a pen out of it going through whichever manufacturer or maker is using it. Because I have a fairly, I definitely don't have one of every material that's ever been bought by a client. I have a handful of Leonardos. I have a couple Viscontis. I have a couple of, Edison pens and Franklin Christophs and Stipula, Montegrappa. No, I don't have a Montegrappa yet. I wasn't able to get one. So yeah, there's a.
Did you get one of the Collier Grandes? Those were fantastic. I love that.
The one I have is a Collier Grande. Well, I take it back. It's a standard size Collier. It's not the number 8 nib. This was one of my first large orders that I did with Edison a year and a half, 2 years ago. Typically, the way I try to orchestrate it is the first time I make a material with a new client, I get one of those pens.
Mm-hmm.
That's generally the way I do it. Sometimes, I've worked with Leonardo for so long. If there's something really cool coming down the pipeline, I'll say, "Hey, can I get one?" With the releases that David's done, I have each of his pens that he released. I have a couple of. I have both of the original primary manipulation releases, which was our first big release together.
That was crazy. I remember that release. That was crazy. Everybody wanted that pen.
It was crazy. Yeah, I don't think they expected it to go quite as insane as it did. So that's why they did a second batch.
Yeah.
But the ones I have are from the original batch.
Oh, nice.
And then with my first big collaboration with Visconti, I have the artist proofs of each pen, as well as number 1 of the first Stipula collaboration that we did.
That's always nice to have, like the zeros. David, I have a question for you. So Jonathan worked with a lot of brands already, but what brand would be really cool to have Jonathan's material on it?
Well, I'll just say that there's a few brands that that I've discussed with Jonathan that we have been trying to make some inroads to broach, and that we'll see, because it's kind of in the mid process of potentially happening. Who knows if it might happen?
So I was thinking, what do you think if there's a Lamy or a Mont Blanc with Jonathan's material? I think that would be really cool.
Oh.
Yes, I think that would be very cool. At one point, I will say I inquired to Lamy if they would potentially be willing to use a custom resin, and they politely laughed.
Okay.
And it's just not their thing that they do. But because I was thinking of how cool would a custom resin, Lamy 2000 look?
Yeah.
That would just look amazing.
Ooh, yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily part of their business plan and
No,
what they
definitely not.
were going to do.
Definitely not.
But I at least asked, and they answered politely, and with a polite no. But I at least asked. What's the worst thing they could say?
I
But
have a story about this because so Dr. Lamy, no, honestly, Dr. Lamy, he was never about colors. And the Lamy Safari and the All Star collection nowadays, it's really colorful. In the beginning, he was really pink, a pink fountain pen. Why would we make that? That's impossible. That was not. It was not possible, and especially for the 2000s. So they released a blue one a few years ago, a red one, but
there was the
the only
brown.
one piece, a brown
Yeah.
one. But yeah,
Hmm.
please don't expect a rainbow Lamy 2000s anytime soon, because that's really not into the typical business plan of Lamy at all.
Yeah. Now I'll say I don't want to jinx who it was, but I will say that I came to Jonathan with some ideas a
Mhm.
while back, and I was thinking hard, going, "Oh, this is a fantastic idea. This is exactly what I think would look really cool." And in a very nice way, Jonathan pretty much said, "No, that's going to look terrible." In a nice way, he said that, and came up with a different idea. And after I was done, I was like, you know what? Yeah, he's right. That would have looked terrible, and his idea is better. And so we'll see if it eventually happens. But like I said, I know you asked for a brand. I just don't want to jinx it right now. But we'll just say that there's a couple brands out there that I've always wanted to really work with that are kind of tougher to make inroads to,
Mhm.
and we'll see if they work out, because I think if they do work out, it would be very, very cool.
Yeah. No, and
Yeah.
honestly, I think a lot of
There's
brands are more open for collaborations nowadays. So that's really cool.
definitely. I know the original collaboration with Leonardo kind of opened the door and eyes of other companies as to uh, let's say a niche in the market that they're missing out on, and
Hmm.
so they have contacted me. Mostly just getting samples and things like that, and who knows if I'll hear back from them or not. And if I do, it'll be amazing. If not, it's okay. Um, and then I get a lot of contacts through distributors or resellers that somewhat act as the middle person who will put me in touch with the end manufacturer. And I've made contacts through that avenue as well. So there's a couple of new clients that are, I'm not allowed to talk about yet. I'm not under any kind of non disclosure, but it's still in the
It's a gentleman's agreement to
initial
not talk
communication stage.
about deals when it's not finished yet. Yeah,
Right.
I understand. I understand that.
Right, exactly. So I'm looking forward to them.
Hmm.
I'm hoping everything pans out in the end. It's if it does, I wouldn't be making the material until probably February or March. So it's still some, that's the other downside to it all is I might make the material 6 to 8 months before the pens are finished and released, and you
Hmm.
know yes, I can keep my mouth shut, but at the same time, I'm excited and I don't like waiting that long.
Of course, I can only imagine. How does that feel, Jonathan, to feel this pressure of being the most popular resin manufacturer in the world at the moment?
Oh, the pressure's definitely there.
Hmm.
However, my wife makes fun of me because she'll ask me who I'm making something for in that on any particular day, and say it's Visconti, and I'm like, oh, I'm just making some stuff for Visconti today. She's like, you do realize how that sounds, right? You're so nonchalant about who it's for. I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, in my eyes, I'm just making something for another client. I try not to let the prestige behind who they are or the history of who they are, add more pressure on top of what's already there.
Hmm.
For me, I'm just focusing on making the best material possible, and I revel in it after they're done. And when I get that pen in person, I'm like, oh wow, I made that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So that's generally when it really sits in with me as to where we are. Uh, the first primary manipulation we mentioned earlier with Leonardo,
Hmm.
I had absolutely no idea the type of marketing they were doing for that pen. My name is on the outer sleeve of the box that it ships in,
Yeah,
and I had no idea. I had no idea my name was a part of the booklet that came with the pen. They didn't.
that feels
Stuff
good.
like
That
that
that feels
blows
good.
my
That
mind.
feels good.
It really does. Oh, I
N-
absolutely. It's something I can always be proud of, and
Hmm.
it's tangible. So I always have that little piece of history
But
with me,
but it's also
and I
paying
have a
paying
growing
respect in
collection.
some way to to you by doing it like this.
Yeah, and a lot of the marketing today for several of the companies that release pens in my material, they're all naming me by name.
Hmm.
And in some circumstances, they're even saying, not just Jonathon Brooks, but Jonathon Brooks of the Carolina Pen Company. So they're promoting me
Hmm.
in a sense without being asked to, or really needing to.
Hmm.
I don't ask for things like that, and just the fact that they do it, it just shows
It's respect. I think. I
how
think
up.
it's
Yeah,
respect that they
exactly.
show.
It's that mutual respect we have for one
Yeah.
another.
Yeah, but you do have some competition now since a few years, because your daughter,
Oh,
she is outperforming you almost, right?
she's starting to.
Yeah.
She's starting to, definitely. She's, at first it started off with, two color mixes, three color mixes, and now she's coming up with 7, 8 colors in any given material, and they're looking amazing. And I'm jealous of a few of them, to be perfectly honest.
Some of the themed ones look amazing. I'm trying to think, was it the
Yeah.
Joker one or with the greens and the purples, or was that maybe it was
Yes.
called something different? I just recall there was a whole series, kind of a superhero series that looked amazing. Or maybe it
Yes,
was
there's
comic books
one.
or something like that.
It's a little bit of everything. Some of it is Disney, like Disney princess type colors. Some are obviously we can't name them that because we don't want to have the big guns coming after us. So we do. So there's one that's after the movie Brave, and it's the color of Merida's coppery red hair and the wisps, little spirits that are part of the
Hmm.
film. So it's that blue and that copper mixed together, and we call it the 10 wisps. You know, dancing
It's really
around
nice.
the
She does a great
copyright
job.
names and such. But yeah,
And
she
Jonathan,
does.
what's the name of her brand?
She is under the name of Fountain Telling, just like fortune telling, but fountain telling. Uh, she actually just got her own logo drawn up and finalized. It's a crystal ball with the name Fountain Telling in it, and fountain pen nibs as the base of it, and you know, and everything for her is still listed under my Carolina Pen Company website, but she has her own tab to where anything that she wants to sell is listed
Oh, nice.
under that. And I've said it on as many outlets as I can. Any penny that gets made on through my website under her name goes directly to her. She's helping fund, pay her last semester of college.
Hmm.
She's almost done, and then you know whatever she wants to do with it, it's hers.
Oh wow.
Well, I think she has a pretty good teacher.
Yeah, definitely. And I think
I
she's doing a great job already.
Thank you. She is, and I'm trying to put her name in samples in packages that are going out to some of these companies as well to
Hmm.
help her grow and get that notoriety as well. Because I mean, she's obviously much younger than I am, so I want her to have that longevity
Hmm.
that I've been able to relish in for the last 10 years, or 10 years plus.
Hmm. Yeah. No, that's great. You can be really proud of her, Jonathan.
Oh, I
Um,
definitely am proud of her.
all right, David. So today's your last episode with us for now, for the time being. And yeah, I wanted to ask you a thing, because what was the most special collab that you did for your own channel?
Like the most special video that I
Yeah,
had done.
yes, yes.
You know what?
And don't
It's been
say
a
the
while.
top three pens for Appelboom, because we know.
Well, no, that was for your
Yeah,
channel.
oh,
That
that's true.
wasn't for
That's true.
mine,
That's
or else it would have been.
true.
If it would have been
You
for
could do
mine, then
any of the interview ones you've done with me. How about that?
yes. You know what? I'll say two.
Okay.
I'll say it was a while ago, but the interview I did with Neil deGrasse Tyson was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. It was incredibly fun to go to his office and spend time with him and not mess it up,
Hmm.
if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah.
That was like my main goal, was just don't mess it up and look professional. And he was going to hold his own in the interview, and so it was just like, don't screw it up on my end. And while there are certain things that make me cringe if I see bits of it, for the most part, I'm pleased with the way it turned out. And I think it was what also I enjoy is that other people enjoy it, that it's something new and different, and
Mhm.
that people will be like, why did I just did I really sit down for a 45-minute interview? Then yeah, that's kind of fun that they did that. I'd say that one, and then also very close is the video that Jonathan and I did together, where I went down to his studio and we made some custom resin.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
I
the
get
reason behind
so
that,
many compliments on that.
yeah, I think at the time, Jonathan really hadn't shared a lot of his behind the scenes about what he does. He'd been rightfully so. If someone is doing something, that they want to be a little protective of it and make sure that they're not, we'll say, oversharing.
Mhm.
And Jonathan has been very generous with sharing to other creators and other resin makers, and he's always willing to share knowledge. But it was fun to sit down and to basically create something from scratch. He let me help, but it was basically like when you have the toddler helping in the kitchen and you give them something they can't mess up to stir. That was the
Yeah.
equivalent of what I got to help out with. So it was 99.9% Jonathan, but I helped out a little bit. But it was fun to see the entire process.
Mhm.
And I think also what was fun was how everyone reacted to it, because everyone really thought it was fun for me to go down there and do it. But then also, I think everyone just had a real joy in watching him work and watching him create something from scratch. And especially since it was something that we to that point, a lot of people hadn't seen. So I think those are the two videos, at least at this point in time, that really stand out as far as ones that I enjoyed doing, and I enjoyed the reaction that the community had to them as well.
Yeah. I can completely imagine,
The number
because
of
yes, go ahead, Jonathan.
I was just sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I was just going to say the number of comments I get in person about the video David and I did, where I'm releasing the material from the molds with the air compressor, and they're shooting up in the air, and I'm catching them. That is still the number one comment I get from people about that video.
But it was
And
impressive.
I get them. I get the comments as well, and I know Jonathan does. Whenever we go to shows, I get a number of people commenting me about how much they like that video, and many other pen makers and resin makers that have come out and said, that's the reason why I wanted to start doing this, is because I saw that video and I thought, hey, this looks like
Mhm.
fun, and I think I could do this. And so it's fun to create things, but it's also fun to inspire other people. And so that's another aspect of it that I like, that a lot of people watched both of us do that, and watch Jonathan do it, and then were inspired to create things of their
That's why
own.
you're such a great influencer, David.
Absolutely.
That's why you're such a great influencer. All right, so we're almost already heading
Definitely.
to the end of the show, but before we are ending the show, we first talk a little bit about the new products that came in.
New products.
New products that came in on the Appelboom website. One of them is the Aurora Il Viaggio Segreto in Italia Burano. I don't know if you guys have seen this pen yet on our website, but it's a really colorful pen. It's about the city Burano. It's near Venetia, if I'm correctly, and it's really colorful. David, have you seen the pen yet?
No, I haven't. And what is the name of it again? I'll
Burano,
just pull it up on your site.
Burano. So it's
Burano.
yes, that's correct, and it's
Oh, I see
inspired.
it. It's
It's inspired on the houses that are all
Oh yeah, I
colored.
remember taking a look at
Yeah,
that. Yeah, the extremely colorful houses in that area, and so that
yeah,
it has a very kind of light and airy, almost kind of cotton candy-ish look to the material.
yeah. That's correct. So that's the fourth release of the. Uh, it's such a complicated name, Aurora. Thank you for that. The Aurora il Viaggio Segreto in Italia. It's a beautiful name, but only if you can pronounce it correctly. And I'm not that good in other languages, so sorry for that for all the Italians. Another new release is the Montegrappa Venetia celluloid. It's a USA exclusive, made in collaboration with Kenro. Um, it comes in four amazing colors: pearl gray, glittering blue, lapis lazuli, and dark blue. It's made with celluloid. That's actually it's yeah, it's a really rare material nowadays. But a few years
Yeah.
ago, it was pretty normal to use celluloid, and that has now completely changed. And if you have a celluloid pen, it's amazing to have it. Jonathan, is that also a material that you use often, celluloid?
I do have some, yes. I actually just finished a pen for a Secret Santa
Hmm.
that I did, and it's an exchange with other pen makers. And the pen I had made was out of a celluloid material,
Oh, nice.
and it is a much more rare to come across, especially in the
Hmm.
quantity that a small maker such as myself can obtain.
Hmm.
And most of the stuff I end up using is more vintage from like the 1930s, 1940s versus the stuff that was made in like the 80s to late 90s.
Yeah,
That is a little bit more prevalent for the larger manufacturers.
yeah. Is it more difficult to use when creating a fountain pen with celluloid instead of a resin that you use?
No, they as far as the machining properties, they're fairly identical.
Hmm.
They take threads very well. I would say the celluloid, if we're talking like a nitrocellulose celluloid, so the one that has that camphor smell to it or
Hmm.
the menthol smell when it's turned, those are a little bit easier to polish than the
Hmm.
resins are. Uh, but all in all, they're fairly equal as far as the turnability. The beauty of the celluloid is you can stack colors in so many different patterns in a way that is just not possible with resins.
So the last new product that I would like to announce, it is actually on our website already for some time now, but we received it in our Boston store earlier this week. It is the Visconti, and most likely I will pronounce this also incorrectly. So maybe David, you can help me. It's the Visconti Kaleido,
Kaleido, I believe.
um, and it's available in two colors. And the materials that are used for this Visconti are actually made by the one and only Jonathon Brooks. So Jonathan, maybe you can tell a little bit about that material as well, because we received the Unicorn Galaxy, and there's also another color.
Okay. Yes, the second color is called Fire Opal. It's a
Mhm.
very light, translucent orange with this uh, super sparkly uh, gold flake that's in there. And it's a gold flake that's primarily used in the custom automotive paint industry.
Mhm.
So the type of sparkle that it gives off is unlike any other material I've ever used. The pigment itself, and it's very light. So it's one of those, while you're turning it in light, it just explodes with color. It's one of those tricky ones that you have to post a video of it to really show what it looks like. Because if you do just a still photo, yes, it's going to look amazing, but it's night and day difference with video to show as you turn it, the colors, or I'm sorry, the gold flake in there that pops. And then the Unicorn Galaxy material is a very translucent tealish turquoise color and violet with a rainbow flake that's swirled throughout.
It's beautiful. Before I forget,
So both do very well for Visconti as far as using their the power filling mechanism.
before I forget, Jonathan, how do you come up with all those names of the materials?
I have a very morbid sense of humor. So typically, if I'm left to come up with a name for a material, I'm going to choose something off the wall and a little quirky. I've named materials.
Is there wait? Do you have a name that's for a material that's coming up, and then David and I will guess what color it would be?
All right, that's actually a fun game. All right, let's go with it's actually going to be a material on an upcoming pen.
Okay.
It's called Blood Money.
Blood Money. Okay, David, tell me.
I say like a dark red with some green accents.
Yeah.
That would.
I would turn it around. I would say green with red.
That's very literal, but.
Okay. In a few weeks, we will see if that's correct or not.
Okay. So, for me personally, I attribute money with gold instead of green because not all currency is green.
Yeah, that makes sense. Fair
enough. That's my way. That's my way of twisting it a little bit. So it is the dark red, and then it has this super metallic gold. That's not like most of the mica powders that's used by any of the blank makers, where it looks more. You can always tell where it's a mica powder because it has this like a certain type of chatoyance to it. Versus this pigment, it's more of a liquid pearl. It doesn't have that granule look to it. It's very, very seamless as far as the color goes, and it's one I'm really excited to see. One of the other upcoming materials is called Cosmic Shame.
Cosmic Shame. All right,
boy. I mean, other than just like a dark blue with a lot of shimmers being stars, that's very literal in my thinking, but that could be many different things. I don't know what color shame is.
Exactly. It's open to interpretation. But no, that one it's a little bit different than most materials I'm known for. It's much more of I don't like using the term muddy swirl, but the colors are not as individual as they normally are. Like take the peacock koi on the Dutch pen show Leonardo that Joost has, where each color you can see the strands coming off. This one is much more. They're all intermingled and swirled together. It's
more blended.
Black. Like, exactly. It's a little bit more blended. It's more of a light blue, what I call like Granny Smith apple green and black.
Oh, that's nice. But we have to wait a few more weeks for these new colors because they are not available yet. Right?
Yeah, we've only gotten past the sample stage.
Okay.
I still have to make the main batch of material.
Okay. So a few more months. That's okay. David,
Yeah.
before we're ending the show, your last episode with us for now, do you have one final question for Jonathan? And make it a
Yeah.
simple one because we're almost running out of time, please.
My question was that had you always had an artistic ability, and would you always kind of consider yourself an artistic person, and this just what your chosen profession is turned out to be kind of a perfect confluence of your talents, or is this something kind of new to you?
So the best answer I can give is I have the artistic talent of a 3-year-old with a box of half-eaten crayons. That is the amount of skill I have as an artist. However, I have found that I have a talent for color, for mixing and blending, and then I ended up just getting lucky finding the resin as an outlet. Before it was, I mean, I've tried almost every type of artistic medium you can think of, from painting, sculpting, you name it, and I'm horrible at all of it. But for whatever reason, the resins, it just worked, and I don't regret it. I'm very proud of where I've gotten with it so far, and I'm excited to see what comes down the road soon.
I've always been a proponent, a philosophy of mine is that there is something in the world that every person is the best at. And that the bad thing is that most of us never find that thing. We could
True.
be at the best. We could be the best at some random thing, and that's why you always want to try new things, experience new things. Don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone, because it's very, very few people that find that one thing in the world that they are the best at. Did Wayne Gretzky find that? He was probably one of the best hockey players ever. Chances are he found his thing, and that the lucky people find their thing, and the rest of us are kind of spent our life searching. And luckily, and at some point in our life, maybe
the rest of us,
I think
the rest of us
found
end
his
up
thing.
as a pen retailer or a YouTube guy that makes videos, right?
Something like that. But I think maybe Jonathan found his thing.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does.
I'm definitely never afraid to fail.
Yeah.
So
No, I really like
I'm
it.
not afraid to fail. I like experimenting with colors, and do I show everything I've ever made? No. Most of the time it doesn't see the light of day. But for the most part, even if it's something I end up not liking, the chances are the general public or a very specific person in the general public will love it.
Yeah.
And so I make it anyway.
When it's all part of the creative process at the end of the day, so it's all good for the creative purpose.
Right.
Jonathan, is there something that you
Exactly.
would like to ask David for his last show?
Oh, put me on the spot there. I don't know.
Yeah.
I got to think for a quick second. I would say, how have you enjoyed the podcast side of things versus the YouTube where you're talking to the camera versus now you're communicating face to face with
That's a
another
good one.
person
Yeah.
or two, and going over the same type of content?
The YouTube side of things is very scripted. I am very careful about what I say and deliberate about what I say, and I think more about what it is. I think the aspect I enjoy of the podcast is that it's very much more extemporaneous, and it uses a different skill set, and I don't have to prepare as much for this. I don't need to do hours and hours of homework. Now, it's good to be somewhat prepared, but I'm not like preparing every single word I'm going to say and practice it and make sure that it's exactly what I want to say and how I want to say it. And so there's, there's something to be said for honing that skill of being able to speak more extemporaneously and get your point across and be engaging and interesting as opposed to something that's more scripted. So it's something I enjoy. I've in the past I had thought about possibly doing a podcast, and I don't know if it's something it would have to be the right thing in order for me to commit to doing it on a regular basis. But I have enjoyed, I enjoy kind of guesting on folks' podcasts or being on other ones. And I've certainly enjoyed the guest hosting here, and it's something that I enjoy doing. And it's just another aspect of being out there. And then it's a cool way to interact with folks, and just a different way to interact with folks.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do love I love the fact that you have different hosts down, for, continuing down the episodes, because it always garners a fresh perspective, and it definitely keeps up with more conversation. It's not two people constantly going over the same line of questions, because your next host might have a completely different thought process in a way that lets them, just get things out in a different way.
It keeps the show dynamic, and I'm really happy with this this concept and how we're doing this.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea.
All right, we're here at the end of the show. David, thank you so much for those last episodes that you did together with us. I was really happy with you. I hope you are also happy that you don't have to sit with me here every week from now on for a few more weeks and have some rest, and that you can recover from all these episodes. And of course,
no, it was a lot of fun, and I appreciate you asking me on, and I appreciate it. And you know what? Actually, before I go, I wanted to announce at least one thing. At least let folks know I have determined what my next pen project will be. I'm not going to say exactly who it's with or when but maybe in February. That's kind of right now, that's the ETA. And that it's something that I'm very excited about. It's a manufacturer I haven't worked with previously. This particular project isn't one of Jonathon's resins, but it's one that I'm very, very excited about. And it might not even be a resin. Maybe it is a resin. We'll see. But it's something I'm excited about and look forward to sharing more with. But
we keep an eye out.
But I have appreciated my time here on I've appreciated my time on the podcast and appreciate you asking me to do this. It's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, David. Jonathan, also thanks to you for being our guest here today and telling us a little bit more about the creative process that you are into when creating the materials and your pens. It was really fun talking to you, and well, we hope to maybe see you another time at the show again. And also maybe you want to join our top 3 pen series one day. So
Yes, I know. I've owed you that for quite some time now.
No worries. Now we're here on the show live. You can say I'm going to make it one day, and then everybody knows that they can wait for it.
Yes, I have committed to it. I will do a top 3 pens.
No, I'm aware that you're really busy, and I'm okay with it, waiting for it. So it's an ongoing show. A lot of people were asking me like, okay, is the show now ending or the series now ending? Because we also have this other series next to it with the 3 questions. But it's an ongoing series.
Right.
And as long as there are interesting people that want to talk about their top 3 pens, they're welcome to join. And well, Jonathan, we will wait for your top 3 pens. No worries about that. Everybody, thank you so much.
And thank you both for having me.
Yes, of course. Everybody, thank you so much for listening to the show through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or some other podcast streaming service, or watching it on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure to do that first. And well, we hope to see everybody for the next episode with 2 new people, a new co-host, and a special guest. So see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.